Drea, what about Sean Feucht? I thought the cancel culture nonsense, the
Mm.
egregious and outrageous crap this wonderful man went through last week in our Dominion, I thought maybe that has settled down, but evidently he is having a show canceled in your neck of the woods, in the Bible Belt, no less. What's going on there?
It is crazy. I had to eat my words a little bit. I've learned over the years when it comes to Christian and religious freedoms in that area, not to assume it's going to go perfect. But I thought, he should be okay in Abbotsford. It should work out. And people should know that in the Lower Mainland and in the Fraser Valley, Sean Feucht has been here the last 2 years in a row, peacefully doing events where thousands of people have come out to each event. So you would think the Bible Belt would have accepted him, but no, in a quite the shock, they said no. The city council used the excuse, of course, of community safety reasons. And what really adds salt to the wound is that they say that the fear of it is that it might attract counter protesters. Well, as I've already proved in a report that I think maybe will be up today, if not tomorrow, there was a whole campaign of this cancel mob, of course, going after specifically the Kelowna and Abbotsford events. So now you're just showing across Canada all it takes to get rid of a Christian, white, conservative male whose views you disagree with. They've created actual Christophobia, literally the fear of Christians peacefully worshiping during a concert in public spaces.
And Drea, this business of Sean Feucht, where he wanted to come, was a public park, I understand.
Yeah.
So he'll probably have to, as he did in Toronto on Sunday, go to a church. But the city is going to deny a permit. I have a hypothetical question for you. If several hundred Islamists showed up at that park and started praying and they didn't have a permit, anything going to happen?
No, and we're already seeing that happening with a piece that Juno put out, an exclusive about a pro-Sharia law imam who's taking a tour around Canada, and some people find that offensive, and nobody's saying anything. I keep talking about Lil Wayne. He's scheduled to perform here in January. Yeah, there's that article there. So Legacy Media silent as pro-Sharia imam kicks off Canadian tour. No one has anything to say about that or any issues with that. And Lil Wayne, of course, has endorsed Trump even before he was pardoned. And he's free to come and perform. No one's saying anything about that, even though, you can compare rapping about guns and violence and women's what to Christian worship, and maybe saying you don't like drag queen story times or gender ideology.
Unbelievable. Chris, to Drea's point of, well, it's not that we're against Mr. Feucht, but there might be counter protesters there. So it's a safety issue. Well, I, being an advocate of freedom, I'm not against counter demonstrations, but that's on the proviso you don't cross the line, i.e. vandalism, throwing smoke bombs, violence. You've covered demonstrations where you've encountered that. Isn't that where law enforcement is supposed to come in? Basically tell the hooligans that, if you want to chant slogans and brandish signs, that's one thing. But if you're going to get physical, that's another, and you will be arrested. Why aren't we seeing that as a response to those who would pose a threat to public safety?
Yeah, this double standard is something that's been getting to me for a very long time, and I've been trying to cover. They talk about potential hazards or threats to public safety. I went to the event outside of Ottawa after the one in Ottawa had its permit pulled, and it was beautiful. A few hundred people showed up, praying in a field, worship music. It was too far for counter protesters, but they talk about these perceived threats that they don't list, and then they completely ignore the actual threats and violence that are occurring weekly in our streets. I'm not the only one that's been a victim of these mobs, but I have been physically attacked in front of police and had police threaten to arrest me for my trouble. So there's a ridiculous double standard. Anyone that watches sees it. I don't know how to explain it other than it's political. It has to be. There's no other explanation in my view.
I think you're right, Chris. And the idea of you being arrested, me being arrested, other independent journalists arrested because the police say, "Well, you're instigating the mob." You know what? That's their problem. This is reminiscent of the bad old days of sexual assault, where a woman was raped and she'd be on the stand and they would say, "Well, how much cleavage were you showing, honey? How much leg were you showing? You see, you brought this upon yourself." It's absolutely disgraceful. Eli, on the point of double standards and two-tier politicking and policing, not a weekend, it seems, goes by in Toronto where the Islamists don't come out and purposely block a busy intersection of traffic. And the police and the city have previously released statements to the media that they have a constitutional right to pray, which is true. They do not have a constitutional right to block traffic. No such thing exists. And by the way, usually where they're having these prayer sessions, they're within walking distance of a local mosque. I reached back out to the city of Toronto, I should tell you, Eli, and I said, they don't have a constitutional right to block traffic. And the response, we stand by our original statement. Absolutely pathetic in light of what Mr. Feucht had to go through last week.
Well, yeah, look, you can talk about double standards. You guys have highlighted quite a few, a Sharia law imam, for example, or these rather hateful rallies that take place every single week. Another example I can think of another controversial event that may generate counter-protesters, Drag Queen Story Hour. You know what they did? They banned the protests. That was their solution there.
Great point.
I'm not saying... Right. I'm not saying I agree with banning protests, but like that was their solution then versus here. It's like, no, let's just end this together. But there's something underlying this issue with Sean Feucht. Sure, there is anti-Americanism, which Canada, it's very rampant. And sometimes it even becomes bigotry. And I've spoken to some American citizens who say being in Canada today almost feels like being unvaccinated during COVID. Like there's just this hatred for Americans. There's this hatred for Trump. But you also have to look a little deeper. This is part of Canada's underlying societal problem of anti-Christian hatred. It's a problem. This was one of the first columns I ever wrote as a columnist back in 2020, Christophobia, the issue the media doesn't talk about. We have had 118 churches torched in Canada. We have had now this cancellation of this Christian preacher. We've had Christians jailed. We've had the parliament refuse to call for Christian Heritage Month. Time and time again, we see acts of hate against Christians, and we see an inability for the political class to condemn it like they do for the others. And in some cases, like they do here with Sean Feucht, they actually abet it. And my theory for this, it's all based in critical theory. They view the Christians as oppressors, even though Christians do so much for communities. My church in Ottawa has its own food bank. And there's just so much food that's giving out to hungry people every week. We do all of this outreach. These churches are a lifeline, but according to the leftists, no. These people are oppressors. These people are conservative. They're bad. So it's sad. But I would honestly, with the Sean Feucht thing, I'm just embarrassed and I'm sad because here you have a Christian singer, like him or not, and he is being targeted for his religion. Don't make it just about Americanism or about MAGA. This is an attack on Christians.
Eli, you're so right. Great points. And by the way, Drea, to build on what Eli was saying, and again, the double standard, the argument against Sean Feucht was, well, he's MAGA. Yeah, last I looked, there was a big MAGA guy at the White House that we're trying to secure a lifeline financial deal with. He's anti-woman. That's code speak for he's pro-life. Yeah. He's anti-LGBT. That means he doesn't believe that a so-called trans woman is a real woman. So that makes him a hater and a bigot and despicable. And meanwhile, the Hamas holes for more than a year and a half are in the streets chanting genocide, displaying swastikas, cosplaying as Sinwar, I think it's only a matter of time before they have somebody from Central Casting dressed as Hitler to further fuel the hatred. This is an appalling double standard, I think, Drea. What has to be done so that Christians can reclaim the public space and say, hell no, we're not taking this anymore?
I also want to point out, just before I answer that question, the double standard that we're seeing with these public excuses. Like I said, now they're saying it's a community public safety threat. During COVID, we heard it was a public health threat, but we know that they targeted the Christians. It wasn't only the Christians who were peacefully worshiping, holding their heads down and going in, but the media and the fines. And of course, the only people being locked up were the Christians. And we're seeing that same rhetoric used here to shut down these peaceful worship events. And when you point out the contrast to these radical extreme protests, I mean, look how long it took for Samadone to be deemed a terrorist organization after they're burning our Canadian flags and calling for the death to Canada, Israel, and the United States. It takes that long, and there was barely any pushback. I will say one of the things that needs to happen is immense, of course, political pushback. We are seeing that, I'm proud to say. It seems like it's starting. It keeps flowing. Every time I go online, a new person who we've elected is actually speaking out in favor of religious freedom. And in Abbotsford, Fraser Valley area, just to list off a few, you have the Langley Abbotsford MLA with the BC Conservatives, Harman Bangu, who is calling on the City Council to go ahead and reverse its decision. You had from the same party, Heather Maas, who's out in Chilliwack, who had said, this is ridiculous before it even got canceled in Abbotsford, and said she would go and attend when he was going to be performing in Abbotsford. You have a federal MP also in the area, Abbotsford. He came out, Sukhman Gill, and stated that, hey, listen, all faiths should be standing up here. He said he's Sikh and he would be appalled if the Sikh places of worship, or however they wanted to be worshipped, or however they want to engage in worship, was under attack. And so he's kind of calling on all faiths to get together. And that circles back to the Bible Belt coined nickname we called Abbotsford. It's changed drastically as more people have come. Now it's still the prominent faith to be Christian in Abbotsford, but Sikh is a strong second out there. So you have a very conservative environment that's standing up. And Dallas Brody, of course, the leader of the One BC party, she was one of the first to come out, and she just came out very shocked with the whole thing and saying, is this the new standard here, that you can't be a conservative Christian singer performing? And I think they've even got a petition going on against all this. So this is a big difference from what we saw during COVID times versus now. And I think we need to see more of that pressure coming on. And of course, we, the people, need to push back as well.
100%, Drea, and there are more of us, i.e. reasonable people that adore freedom of speech, expression, assembly, than there are of these cancel culture maniacs. But Chris, when I interviewed Mr. Feucht on Sunday, and I put this question to him, and he could barely contain a huge Cheshire cat grin. And I said to him, you look who you've been up against: the Islamists, the mainstream media, governments, the Rainbow Mafia, Antifa. They've tried their best and succeeded in canceling you. And what happened? Suddenly, thousands and thousands of people that never heard of you, well, you're a household name. You're trending on X. You're selling more books. You're getting more donations online. So what I'm saying, Chris, is the delicious irony of the cancel culture hooligans trying to deplatform him. They did the precise opposite. They created a Barbara Streisand effect for the good for Sean Feucht. What do you say?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Take what the enemy meant for evil and turn it to good. And that's exactly what happened. They surrounded and attacked the church in Montreal. And there was still some people in there, even after the smoke bombing. I was in Ottawa the next day, and it's a couple of hundred people. And you could feel it. Like, honestly, you could feel it. And I looked the next day in Toronto, and it's 1,000 people. And that's just growing. And another thing that I've noticed a lot in my posts and just following this is the amount of non-religious people coming in and specifically saying, I'm atheist or I'm non-religious. But this is absolutely unacceptable. So a lot more people are waking up to this. It's not something new. Religion has been under attack for quite a long time. My church has been the subject of numerous hit pieces. They sent people in to spy on us and all kinds of things. I get attacked regularly by religion. But this story is really, really broadening this to a wider audience, and people are not okay with it.
That's a great point, Chris. And, Eli, I have to tell you, when I went to the church on Sunday in Northwest Toronto, and thankfully no Antifa or Rainbow Mafia members were there to create havoc. But then again, this church was located in the northwest end of the city, so the subway doesn't reach there. And typically these losers don't have cars. So it was a protest-free zone. But the thing is, I'll admit, full disclosure, I'm not a very religious person. I know my colleague Drea is a woman of faith. My beloved colleague Sheila Gunn Reid is a devout Catholic. I'm going to tell you something. I went in to take in that show, a show that was described and billed by CBC and its ilk as a hate fest. And what did I see? I saw singing. I saw dancing. I saw praying. I saw laughing. And it was so spiritual that even a hardcore cynic like me, I was moved. There's no other word but beautiful to see all these people singing in unison and in harmony as Sean was playing the guitar and his bandmates accompanying him. It was moving, and it was the opposite of hate. So why is CBC and the rest of the legacy media purposely, creating a narrative that is 100% false?
That's a good question. Well, I just want to build off of what some of the other people said. First of all, I'm a Christian. I never heard of this guy. Not a lot of people have heard of this guy before. Now everybody knows about him. So yeah, now he's going to have a lot more people go to his shows. And I highly encourage people to go to his show just to show solidarity with him. Because again, as a Canadian, I'm embarrassed when people come to our country and this is how we treat them. So go and show them who real Canadians are. So that, number one, I'll say that. I do want to just say, David, your point is so true, too, about avoiding counter-protesters. You just have to make it a little inconvenient. The church in Montreal was centrally located, so they showed up. But I remember Jordan Peterson came to Ottawa in 2023, and there was this whole thing, cancel Jordan Peterson. No, we don't want Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Well, they held it at the NHL Arena, which in Ottawa is very, very far away, and parking costs $20. Is the total ripoff. But you know what that meant? Despite all of the noise, despite all of the legacy media articles, not a single one showed up. Not even one. Not even one had the courtesy to brave and pay $20 to protest Jordan Peterson. So that's that. The media
and Eli, I can tell you're 100% right. I was there that night, and the primary reason, in addition to taking in Jordan Peterson's performance, was that all the online chatter, we're going to shut it down. There's no way the Canadian Tire Centre is going to be a safe space. Not one demonstration.
Not one. I know. It was insane. On your other question, why does the media fixate on this? There's a really good book that I think everybody should read. It's called Bad News by Batya Ungar-Sargon. She's an American journalist who left the legacy media. And it talks about the priorities of journalists are not the same legacy media, don't include me there, please, are not in line with normal people. These people are part of the elite. They live in usually downtown condos. They have their small social circles of other journalists and lobbyists and politicians. So what is their priority? It's not the fact that a house costs twice the price that it did 10 years ago. It's not the fact that even the MSRP of cars has doubled. It's not the fact that there's crime in the streets. It's not the fact that our resources are being overloaded and that people are dying in the public healthcare system. No, it is this, because they live in their alternative reality where this has to be manufactured and create a manufactured issue because they really care about it because they're on Twitter all day. That's what it's about. It's another sign of the media being out of touch. Newsrooms complain, we're limited. We don't have enough resources. We need more government subsidies, please. And meanwhile, that's what they have the time to write about, please.
You know, Eli, I'm going to look up that book, Bad News, and I'll throw another book out there. The title had me as soon as I saw it. No More Christian Nice Guy. And basically the premise of the book is in Christianity, it's all about turning the other cheek. Well, you know what? Not to the point where you're going to be a pushover. I mean, Jesus himself went into the temple to kick the asses of the money changers. So there is a precedent for standing up. There is nothing unchristian about it.